Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Today we are looking at the Corellian gunship, otherwise known as the DP20 frigate. Now, this one gets a little bit more recognition than some of the other ships that we get, but here we are. This was one of the few dedicated warship designs produced by the Corellian Engineering Corporation, and it was most common member of the Corellian gunship production line. Though small and compact, it was fast and carried heavy firepower for a ship of its size and class. So, getting into a lot of the characteristics and the history, and I'm really kind of interested to see if this matches up with what I kind of remember here. So, unlike its cousin, the CR-90 Corvette, the gunship had minimal cargo space and almost no space for passengers or troops. These small ships were designed to be only two things: fast and deadly. Engines consumed nearly half of the gunship's interior space. What little room was left was used for deflector shield generators and weapons. Armed with 8 double turbolaser cannons, 4 concussion missile tubes, and 6 quad laser cannons, the Corellian gunship was effective against both larger capital ships and starfighters, though it was primarily used against the latter. These ships were 120 meters long. Each one carried a crew of 45, along with 46 gunners. They were equipped with Class 2 hyperdrives. The DP20 was originally designed for the fleet of the Galactic Republic. These vessels saw extensive use among the Corellian and Rebel Alliance / New Republic fleets, although some were also seen in the hands of independent operators such as pirate factions and other fringe groups. Local Imperial forces also utilized this class. The Rebel Alliance, in need of a small, fast attack vessel, decided to purchase a few of these starships after witnessing a group of pirates use them to hijack an Imperial shipment guarded by several Imperial fighters and bombers. At least one of the vessels were wrecked in the Cortine asteroid belt by Craig's father and his space wreckers. Approximately 12 months before the Battle of Yavin, the DP-20 frigates were among the fleet led by the rebel flagship Salvation when it fell under attack by the bounty hunter Boba Fett and for its retaliatory assault on Camino. Following the Rebel Alliance's first victory over the Galactic Empire, the pirate Crimson Jack's crew employed a DP-20 frigate to fight off the TIE complement of an Imperial cruiser, crippled in the battle, which he then seized for himself. Uh, During Imperial blockade of the rebel base of the fourth moon of Yavin, DP-20 frigates, alongside larger rebel warships, were part of the Alliance fleet led by the smuggler Han Solo through the asteroid corridor to defend their supply planet Junction from the Imperial aligned House of Tag, or Taggy, I guess Tag. Though the supposed attack was in fact a ruse to draw the rebel fleet and incapacitated on the House Chief Scientist Salus Tag's Omega Frost superweapon. Sabotage to the device by the rebel Luke Skywalker and a breach of comm silence by the Tag's crew allowed the rebel frigates and blockade runners to destroy the Tag's mining explorer. After the evacuation of Yavin, DP-20 frigates were among the rebel fleet dispatched to the wealthy planet Orchar in hopes of establishing a new base. Oh, wow. After the Battle of Hoth, the Corellian gunship Loose Cannon was used by a group of pirates in a raid on the Mezian family's asset. Try saying that one a couple times. Drawn, drawn the Mezians in the promise of black market Bacta. The loose cannon exited hyperspace and engaged the fire spray fighter. Um, oh boy, I'm going to murder this one. Andresia and a YT 2000 transport Onada. Though the gunship inflicted significant damage to the Adristia, it succumbed, it succumbed to their attack and combusted from within. Okay, the New Republic captains Afrayan and Syrian Virgilio both began their careers with the Rebel Alliance aboard Corellian gunships at first, or as first and third officers, respectively. Virgilio's gunship was the veteran of many engagements since Hoth and recovered the 6 surviving members of Bothan Spynet involved in the theft of the Death Star 2 plans. Apparently, I'm having a hard time trying to say this. During the Bakura incident in Fort ABY, 5 Corellian gunships, the oh boy, I don't know how I'm going to pronounce these. Esaev, I'm murdering these. I'm sorry, guys. I'm trying. Gamarian's Honor, Mastala, and Telsor, and Weaver were part of the rebel task force sent to defend the Imperial-held planet Bakura from the extragalactic Cis Review Imperium. Boy, that is a hard name to try and. Normally, if I'm reading this in a book, I just kind of pass over it and I just kind of get the gist of it. So I really apologize. The Alliance group formed a truce with the world's defenders, whose forces included 6 Corellian gunships of their own, though 4 were lost in battle in the initial invasion of Bakura. All right, so we keep going on and on here. Behind the scenes, which is really what's kind of something that's going to interest me. The design of the gunship was based on early concept art from the pre-production Star Wars Episode 4, A New Hope, depicting a lean, small warship was originally conceived as the Imperial starship in the rough draft, evolving into a pirate ship as the script developed. The role in the movie was eventually taken by the Millennium Falcon, while the linear design served as the basis for the hammerhead-bowed blockade runner. Both were depicted as Corellian ships from the same manufacturer as the non-movie gunship. And I do kind of remember some of this because there was another show called Space 1999, and the ship resembled too much of what they had done in that show. So we'll see if we actually get some of that out of here. The gunship was first described in details in the Rebel Alliance sourcebook back in 1990, but Rebel gunships based on the same concept art designs first appeared in the 12th issue of Marvel's Star Wars comics in 1978. The complete Star Wars encyclopedia confirmed these to be Corellian gunships. In issue 25 in the Marvel Comics Star Wars, Luke and Leia trade a space yacht for a Corellian gunship of this design. Luke uses it as his primary ship for much of the next year until The Empire Strikes Back was serialized, after which Luke pretty much flew his X-Wing everywhere. I think my voice is getting a little hoarse. Okay, because of the result or the reuse of old concept art from the prequel trilogy, the design also or is also similar to the Counselor class cruiser in the Phantom Menace, another Corellian design. The ISIS coordinates, an adventure for the Star Wars role-playing game by West End Games, featured the complete deck plans of the Corellian gunship Handry, which we will kind of look at here. Uh, the common fan designation for the vessel was the Corellian gunship before the revised version of Starships of the Galaxy introduced the design as the DP20 or DP20 without the dash. The term Corellian gunship became a classification on which is still widely used by fans to refer to the gunship specifically. Okay, so let's kind of transition over here. Okay, so kind of continuing on with this, if you look at the front, and now these are redone kind of pictures of this, but the front was then later used for the Millennium Falcon, so that's our cockpit there. And of course, this has all been resized, but like I said, it looked very much like the 1999. So they kind of scrapped the idea, but it kind of came back later. So they redid the design to create the Corellian Corvette that we got to see with Princess Leia, but then they kept the cockpit, redesigned the ship into the Millennium Falcon. So that's what I kind of remember out of it. Um, and that's how we got our iconic ships. But as designs go on and people do the other things, here we are. And as you can see, out of this, we have two different versions of the same ship. So as things kind of get redone and reimagined and so on and so forth, here we are. So looking at it in the West End Games terms, um, the source for this really comes from the Rebel Alliance source book, which I'm not reading this from. We read it from the Wikipedia. The Thrawn Trilogy source book, Starships of the Galaxy, and here we are. So this is a mid-size anti-starfighter warship. Now keep in mind, whenever we're really looking at fleets, you're going to have your big ships in the middle, and then you're going to have smaller ships in what they would call the picket line or picket fleet. So if something was to try and come towards the big ships, you have smaller ships to try and thwart them off so that way they don't hit your main ships. Although, due to budget restraints and everything else, these are things that they just couldn't do. They had just a few models, so they just did the best they could with the models and just repasted them in there. So, of course, this is a capital scale at 120 meters long. We have a crew of 45 with another 46 gunners. We have a cargo capacity of 300 metric tons, consumables for up to 8 months. Brand new, this is costing 4.8 million credits. Used, it is at 2.4 million. Now, one of the things that we always have to kind of remember here, and whenever we're pricing this stuff out, I mean, we look at millions of dollars getting different things today. When we're looking at the Star Wars universe, we're really looking at a timestamp of when this stuff was originally made. So, what was the economics back in 1977, 78? Even if you want to just up it to 1980, what did $1 million look like back then in comparison to today? So, whenever you're doing any science fiction or even a fantasy realm, you have to think of what kind of economics you're going to have and how does that work. So when we look at how much this stuff costs, and I know this is kind of going a little off course here, but the fact that we see this is brand new, 4.8 million, and then I can look at ships that are being produced today and they're going for like $13 million US, and these are big yachts or whatever, and these are huge spacefaring vessels with tons of guns on them and so on and so forth. But like I said, you have to remember the economics in Star Wars is really based off of like 1977 to 1980. So you have to kind of look at it in those regards. All right, so hyperdrive we're looking at ×2, and we kind of saw that in our reading. It does have a backup hyperdrive of a ×16, so it is quite a bit slower. It does have a nav computer because you definitely want to be able to get to where you need to go and not just rely on a droid. Maneuverability is a 2D+1, so it's just a little bit better than normal. Has a space of 7, so this is a little bit slower than your fighter craft, but typically faster than most of your large ships. So it is a fighter destroyer if you look at it in that regard, but it is also really meant to go up against other capital scale ships. Okay, so atmosphere wise, we can go 1,000 kilometers an hour. We have a hull of 4D+2, so it is a pretty resilient little bugger. Has shields of 2D+1. Our sensor package, we have passive sensors being a scanning out to 2 kilometers. Our active scan goes out to 4 kilometers. Our search goes out to 8 kilometers, and our focus is about 200 meters. Weapon-wise, we have 8 double turbo laser cannons. So we have 2 in the front, 3 on the left, and 3 on the right. And they each require a crew of 2. So then we're looking at a fire control of 3D, and this is all at capital scale. So these, I'm thinking, let's see, these are our big guns going up against other capital scale. So that's a pretty good fire control there. Damage is 4D+2, pretty respectable. And then we get to our 6 quad laser cannons, 3 on the left, 3 on the right, and these are our anti-starfighter cannons. They are starfighter scale with a fire control of 3D. Now these require a crew of 3 each. So kind of like when you're looking at modern guns and that, you may have one person actually firing it and maybe 2 trying to link up extra rounds or something like that. Seeing that a lot of what we have for Star Wars is kind of a reimagination of a futuristic World War II out in space. So you could look at it as like a 20 millimeter cannon, and you have 2 guys that are constantly trying to feed the rounds into there as it's just kind of blamming away. It could be something along that line. So however you want to look at it, it does require a crew of 3 to keep this up and running. We have a fire control of 3D, which is pretty respectable to try and hit other starfighters, and it has a damage of 5D. And then we have our 4 concussion missile launching tubes, 2 in the front and 2 in the back. Again, it requires a crew of 3. 1 is going to be our gunner, and probably another 2 to try and reload this. We don't see a magazine listing as to how many rounds they have in there. Seeing that this is supposed to be a bigger warship, probably not a big deal there. It does again have a fire control of 3D, and we have an atmospheric range, but our damage is 90. So pretty well balanced out. A nice small ship. If you want to look at it in another regards, this is almost like Star Trek's Defiant class. So it's a smaller ship meant to be able to take a little bit of a pounding, but also dish out a good pounding here. And then we get our schematics. So, of course, our top deck, we have our shield generator up on top. We have a laser turret emergency entry here up on top as well. And then I'm trying to look at this sideways here. So I'm having a little bit of a hard time trying to read this because my mind is just not working on it. And when I tried to paste it over here, things kind of got a little off kilter here. So if you're trying to read it, if you're on a big screen TV, you might have a little bit better job doing that. All right, so then we do have a second deck, which is where our bridge is. We have some officers' quarters. Like I said, I'm trying to read this sideways. So it looks like it's seeing head. I can't make out the other part. And we have head over here, so I don't know. Life support, comms. Um, it's head something, but I just can't make this out, so I apologize on that. Now we have back to tanks inside here. We have a brig. We have a sick bay. Um, looks like a commander's office. Shield generators. We have a galley over here. Mess hall. Shield generators. Crew rooms. All that stuff. Deck 3. We have an airlock on both sides. Um, I'm trying to figure out. Oh, it's a droid hold. So they actually have a spot for droids. Looks like they can, store up to like 6 droids here. We have sensors here on both sides. We have some power controls, shield controls, shield generators. Again, because it's kind of going through multiple decks. Um, we have laser controls, shield generators, some more laser controls on the other side, some more rooms. Let's see. Here's our laser turrets themselves, and of course we have laser turrets on the side. So here's our entryways. Um, we have our escape pods on our fourth deck. Lots of escape pods here. Storage. We have a ramp, entryway, and all that. So, the fact that they went through and actually kind of came up with all this is really something else. And of course, so we have more shield, laser controls, shield generators, all of that. Um, it's very interesting to see how this is. Now, to kind of throw this out here, because I did make the reference, this would be like a Star Wars version of the Defiant. Um, the fact that they are both roughly about the same size is really kind of a nice coincidence here, to be able to look at it in those regards. Um, and, you have big engines on here. Obviously, looking that we have shields that go from our first deck all the way down to our fifth deck here. And this is built as a warship, which has a small crew. It is very interesting. And a crew of 45, where the Defiant has a crew of, I believe it's like 55 or so. It's just that Star Trek doesn't have as many people actively sitting in gunners' turrets compared to Star Wars. Um, Another wonderful ship, and the fact that this is the basis of what became 2 different ships, and a similar design to spawn other ships, really is a testament to some of the early design characteristics that had been done, and then how we carry this over to other things. Um, using similar things, similar design threads, and you see like a progressionary system here. So, another wonderful ship, another wonderful look at some of the things that we don't typically get to see. Although, like I said, I do know that the Corellian Corvette has, or Corellian Gunship here, has gotten a little bit more notoriety because it is a lot closer um, to the Corvette itself. We see a little bit more resemblance to that, and I think we've seen a little bit of this that was never really mentioned in the Wikipedia. Maybe I'm wrong. It's it's obviously something I've seen quite a bit in the books, um, but I want to say it's popped in here and there in the background images in some of the ship or some of the animated series. Um, like I said, I could be wrong, but I really want to say so. But with that being that, hope you're enjoying the series. It's wonderful to bring these ships to light to everybody. Hope you're having a wonderful day, and we'll see you in the next video.